Hi guys, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host Indira, and today I'm joined by a Paris 2024 Olympian, Calli Hauger-Thackery, ahead of the Paris 2024 Olympics. In this episode, she shares her journey to her 2:22 debut marathon, which qualified her for the Olympics a year in advance. It's been quite the journey for her, but there's lots to take away from this and lots to learn. Okay, but before we get into the episode, please be sure to give it a rating if you've been enjoying the show, as this helps to give credibility to the podcast so I can keep bringing you guys the guests you want to hear from. Okay, let's get into the episode. Hi, Calli, how are you? And welcome to the podcast.
Hello, I'm doing great, thank you. Pretty tired from marathon training, but otherwise doing very well. But thank you for asking.
Great having you. And it's I can imagine quite a lot of running, so I think that's pretty reasonable way to feel.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but it's been good, and I've got my head down in the mountains. So yeah, I'm enjoying training. I love training out here in St. Moritz. It's a beautiful place, and everything's on your doorstep, so it feels like just second nature. You just get the job done, and I've been out here for a month now, so. Yeah, and it's steep and closer. Like two more weeks. Well, 10 more days, and then I'll be out in Paris. So
wow, gosh, so exciting! And yeah, spicing up with St. Moritz. Had a couple of Font Romos recently. So are you more of a St. Moritz kind of person?
Do you know what? I think I've done it the wrong way around because I've always done St. Moritz, and I feel like I don't know. Like I always hear like Font Romeo, St. Moritz. I guess they're just different for different reasons. Like I mean, Font Romeau's more, I feel like you save a lot of money going to Font, and apparently it's still got beautiful trails and everything, but I have heard like the downside is that you do need a car out there and it's quite hard logistically. Whereas St. Moritz, like everything is on your doorstep, but yeah, it is very expensive in Switzerland, crazy, but it's worth it. The views, the runs, and just logistically, it's amazing for runners, and it's runners paradise, I would say.
Wow. Well, if you've got the means.
One day I'll go to Font and see, and then I can properly compare.
Yeah, definitely. No, that sounds amazing. And I mean, in my opinion anyway, nothing beats some mountains. So no, that's fantastic. And yeah, Paris right on the verge. I guess we can get into that a little bit later on. And so if we just start, for anyone who doesn't already know you, can you briefly introduce yourself as an athlete?
My name is Calli Hauger-Thackery. And I am now a marathon runner. I was a track runner, I would say, up until last year. I very much thought I was going to make it in the Olympics in the 5,000 meters, but here we are. I am representing Great Britain in the marathon on the craziest course known to man. And I don't think it until you see it in person, you can't really tell how crazy this course is. But I'm excited. I think this is going to make it an amazing historical race, and we get to go around the whole of the city pretty much. So yeah, I'm really excited for it, and I've been training for the course specifically, so I feel ready. But yeah, that's pretty much my story in terms of like track runner to marathon runner. Here we are.
Wow, no, that sounds exciting. Bit of a sightseeing kind of race situation. We'll definitely have to talk about that course later on then. And a couple more questions just to run through to start off with. For you so far, what's been the most significant running moment?
Yeah, I have to say my debut marathon, the most significant for sure. I love the track. It's just a different kind of feel on the track. But the roads, I feel like, for so long, people have been telling me I'm going to be like a marathon runner. I think my biomechanics, my family history, and all of those things, they were like, yeah, you're definitely a through and through marathon runner. You'll see it one day. And I kind of was like, no, like I still have some unfinished business on the track. And I really wanted to I just enjoy the speedy stuff. But deep down, I think I have always known that I've secretly loved my long runs for a long time. And I always do quite a big, beefy long run on a Sunday. So I'm like, maybe I am meant to be like a distance runner. I guess my debut did. I should have listened, but at the same time, I love my path. It's been, it's not been the most conventional route, but that's okay. And I found myself been very good at the marathon. It qualified me for the Olympics, my debut. So, yeah. But no, that's pretty much the gist of that one. Yeah.
No, nice. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people out there would love their debut marathon to take them to the Olympics. So, it sounds like you've found your calling. You're in the right place, and yeah, unconventional is it can be the way to go. Get a lot of new perks with that. For you, what's the next biggest goal or thing that you're hoping to achieve? Kind of have a hunch about this.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Olympics is the next big thing. I've had my eyes on that for a long time now. Even before qualification, I had that in the back of my mind for a while, and just to get the qualification and now just see the training block, and I'm very fortunate. It's gone really well. I'm feeling the strongest I've ever felt, and we've been very specific with the course itself because it's very hilly. There's probably more ups and downs, not just the ups as well, there's the downs you've got to train for. There's so much to it. So yeah, we've been doing a lot of specific stuff out in the mountains here. So yeah.
Wow, that's really
Yeah,
exciting.
I guess goal wise, I don't know, like I just do the best I can on that day and just be up there with the top runners in the world and give it a good go. Like I'll 100% be giving it my all, and whatever that outcome is, it is on the day. But I try not to put too much pressure on that, and we'll see. But obviously, yeah, I do want to be up there. So
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. Well, it sounds like everything's in place and there's no reason why not. Um, and for you, are there any topics at the moment you feel particularly strongly about within the sport?
yeah, I feel like women's health is a big one. I think like that should never be taboo. I think we should all openly talk about it because it's we do have to balance so many things as athletes anyway, men and women. But on top of that, women have to also deal with a few other things. But definitely like yeah, things that I've struggled with in particular, and I had a lot of anxieties actually about the marathon because I realized I have like an app on my phone and it tells me when my period's due, and I was looking like religiously on my app to see if it was like due on the marathon, and of course it was due like a few days after. First it was saying 2 days after, and I was thinking, oh no, that is the worst time possible, because for me, like I actually can perform really well on my period, but like the few days before are just awful. Like I feel so tired, so like lethargic, just yeah, I have a lot of awful symptoms, and yeah, I was just praying that it wouldn't fall on that kind of timeline. But luckily, like it got delayed the last like month or two. So like now I'm looking at my app and I'm like, okay, it's saying 6 or 7 days out. So I'm like, hopefully this will be more in my spot. But it's something like you don't want to have to worry about, like it's already hard enough trying to train for this kind of event, and then on top of that, you're trying to make sure your hormones are in a good spot. And yeah, I feel like that needs to be addressed more. I know more and more like people are talking about it now, and we are doing all the necessary things. I have been working closely with a doctor and trying to figure out like what we can do as women, as females, like before that, so we're not having those anxieties before a race, especially a race like the Olympics. Like it's just yeah. And I have found there's definitely things we can do, which is really nice. And for me, it's just, yeah, there's just been a few little things, even in my diet, what has made a big difference, and a few little supplements here and there will definitely help. So, yeah, it's just doing all these things before making sure my hormones are in a good spot.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, female anatomy. I mean, you know, it would have been great if we could have had maybe, 4 a year max. It's yeah, a few
Yeah.
days before is not the one. We'd definitely get into that a bit later on. And finally, what's the number one piece of advice you would have given to your younger self?
Yeah, just I know people will say this a lot, but like genuinely just enjoy the whole journey, and just know that enjoy the downs as well. Like I know that sounds crazy. There's going to be ups and there's going to be downs, but you have to know that the downs serve a purpose and they do strengthen you. Like if you can get through these some setbacks, whether that's big illnesses or injuries or like there's so many things what come into play. It's not just going to be this forward trajectory, and if it is, great. But just know that one day that it's inevitable. It's sport. There's going to be some downs amongst that, and just embrace the downs as well. I think that's really important, and just know that yeah, like I've had so many ups and downs, and but it's brought me to this place now. Like I think knowing that, I think if I could tell my younger self that and just be like, look, you're gonna have a lot of setbacks, but that's okay because it's gonna make you really freaking strong.
Yeah. That is true. Yeah, adversity builds strength, and is it really a true journey if it's all plain sailing? I don't know, debatable.
Yeah.
And so let's, strip this back to the back. Let's take this back to the start. Where did it all start for you? How did you get into running?
Yeah, so mine was actually a typical sports day at school, really. I mean, my mom and my dad were both runners, but they never put the pressure on me to do it, really. I think it actually came from a sports day at school where my PE teacher saw me running around. We did this like cross country race at school, and I was beating all the boys, and they were like, okay, you're really, really good at this thing. And I remember pacing myself. I think from the start, I was like, I think it was always there for me. And the PE teacher was like, wow, you really pace yourself well. And then I ended up beating everyone basically that day. She was like, you need to join a club or something because you're really good at this. And I was like, oh yeah, maybe. So I went home and yeah, I told my mom that my PE teacher said I was really good at running. And I joined a club, joined my local club, Hauger-Thackery Harriers, which was Don Valley area. I would train at Don Valley where Jessica Ennis used to train. And I used to see her all the time and be super inspired by her. I thought she was so like cool and she did great things. And yeah, and I just really enjoyed like racing and just being competitive, but also just seeing my friends like and just yeah, I really enjoyed it. And that's how it all started for me. And my mom and dad never put pressure on me though. They just yeah, we would just meet up 2 to 3 times a week, and then I started racing and got that competitive bug, I guess. I did okay as a youngster, but I would do the bare minimum, like in terms of like training. I would just meet those 3 times a week with the club just to see my friends, really, but and then hope that I would do like win the race. But yeah, and then it wasn't until college until I took it like, more seriously.
Yeah. Okay, no, that's really interesting. And yeah, quite a classic route in. And for you, you mentioned it was college where you started to take things more seriously. Was there a particular trigger for that, or was it kind of a natural progression?
Yeah, so I did 1 year in the UK in Leeds, Leeds Met, and then I got some scholarships I've been getting scholarships for a while, and I was like, do I, don't I? But all my friends were like, you cannot surpass the American dream. Like, you have to go out there. Like, if I could get a scholarship out there, I would definitely do it. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. Like, but at the time, like, I was in a long-term relationship, and I was like, oh my God, can I do this? Can I just leave my whole life and go to America? Like, it's not just, it's a whole, it's the other side of the world, basically. And but I just knew deep down I couldn't surpass this opportunity. So I did end up going to like visit some universities, and I narrowed it down to 2 universities in the end. So it was Iowa State and the University of New Mexico. And yeah, it was hard. It was hard because they both had some perks, and so but in the end I went to New Mexico, had an amazing time out there. The best decision I ever made. I mean, don't get me wrong, the transition is hard. It's not easy. And it is something you have to get used to. It's very different. It's a completely different life to like seeing how the UK universities are, like with the books championships and the little support you get compared to what you get in America is night and day difference. But something what's absolutely incredible, and I would never look back. Like, I would recommend it to anyone who had opportunities or scholarships because yeah, it's absolutely incredible, and you grow so much as a person out there.
Yeah. Wow. No, that's great to hear. And, it's great that you did make that decision. And I guess to drill a little bit deeper there, then, is there anything in particular that you can kind of elaborate on in terms of maybe, the personal growth, the athletic growth that's kind of, made a big difference or stood out?
Definitely. I think it's just all the resources you get out there. It's absolutely incredible. So like, yeah, just the strength and conditioning coaches, nutritionists, psychologists, like everything is there for you. You get an advisor, an academic athletic advisor. So they help you in making the right choices in terms of your academics as well, and making sure like you are balancing both well. Because it's not easy being a student athlete. Like, you are competing a lot, or you're trying to be the top of your game in your athletics, but you're also like really trying to study and do well and get a good degree out of it as well. So yeah, you really do grow as a person. And obviously in America as well, they're very different the way they are and the way they study, and they're very loud, they're very confident, which I love and respect that so much. But little me going in there was like, oh my God, I never done any public speaking before, for example, and they do public speaking a lot. Like, you don't have to just do the homework and go and do the essay, you have to then go and present it to 100 people lecture hall. And it's just like, what? Like, we don't really do that at school. So like, whereas they start that very early. And like, so for them, it's nothing. They're just like go and chat away about, like, and they can just do it really confidently. And then I get up and I get stage fright. No one prepares you for that.
That,
So,
yeah.
yeah, it's nerve-wracking, but you get used to it. And in the end, like by your second, third, fourth year, you're like, oh, like public speaking, okay, like sure, I'll get up and do this. So now, yeah, you do. You're like, you gain all these different, like life skills, what you probably wouldn't have got elsewhere. It is a completely different culture out there, and it's amazing. And like I said, like, and also on top of that, with the team dynamics as well, with the athletics team itself, absolutely incredible. Like, you don't, yes, it's an individual sport, but out there you don't feel like it is, because all these spots on the team, like, it does count. So you're running at conferences, and then it's like a conference meet, then you have regionals, then you have nationals. So you're not just running for yourself anymore, you're running to make ultimately the national team. And there's team positions, and you don't want to let your team down. And the coach is always stressing that out, like, like, it's like, you're not just doing this for you anymore, you're doing this for your team. And I'm like, yeah, and it just hits you differently, and you're like, yeah, it's amazing. And I really like that. I like the team dynamics, and I just think, yeah, I was very fortunate to have an amazing group of both, well, women and men on that team who were very inspiring. Even a few of them now have made the Olympics, and Courtney Frerick, she got a medal at Worlds, and then Josh Kerr, I was on the team with Josh Kerr as well. And yeah, I had some incredible people around me, and I was very lucky and learned a lot from my time there, and progressed as an athlete and a person because of it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, yeah, what you say about, even just the culture. I started school in America and then moved to the UK. And I do remember being sat like an 8-year-old thinking, everyone's so quiet. Like, what is this? What's going on? But yeah, I mean, the team dynamic as well, you touched on that, the resources, those are major differences. And especially, I guess, with the team dynamic, it's great, it's got its pros, but there's a lot of talk about kind of the pressures that come with that, the kind of negative sides if you get injured and stuff like that. Did you ever struggle with pressure or injuries or experience any kind of lower moments during your time out there?
Yeah, you hear that a lot actually about the university system in America and how coaches can overtrain you. And there's some negativity around the like not having the support with, with especially like eating disorders and things like that. And like you do see that a lot and hear about it. But I was so fortunate that my team, on the most part, like 95% of us were very in a healthy spot. There was great food shops around us, well, cafes and stuff. We would have a breakfast burrito like every other day, like after the run, or some, like we would meet often, and it was a very good like team culture, and we had a good relationship with food. But also my coach was very like, he didn't stand for that. And there's also the resources if people were struggling with that, he would stress that there is the resources if you want to seek help with that, and he would make sure we were always in a healthy spot. And I did feel very supported both from my teammates and from my coach. But my coach Joe Franklin, he was known as the wizard. Like, he was brilliant, and he looks at like every individual person. He doesn't just give you a set classic college regime. Like, he's like, right, he looks at like your ultimate goal. And if like, for example, if he thinks you can make the European Championships at the end of a big season, he will think about that, so he won't overrace you. And he will look at that, like that end goal, and be like, right, let's factor this in, let's not overrace her if she's looking to like extend on her season, which I really appreciated. And I never felt overtrained or anything. So yeah, it was a positive experience. Yeah.
That's so great to hear. And, obviously that I guess is such a lifestyle and such a way of living. Coming back then from America, what was that transition process like? And, how did you deal with that?
Yeah, no one can prepare you for that either. Like, it is such a difference, and it's a shock, and it's almost like doing it again, like that whole feeling again when you get out to America, and then you do that again, like when you finish in America and you've done this, like lived a different life basically, and like had this crazy life experience. But then it's like, oh my God, now what? I've graduated, and now I'm supposed to be an adult. And it's like, no one can prepare you for that unless you're one of those great athletes, you won the national title or something, and you've got sponsors at your door, and brilliant. But like, if you've not, like, it's like, God, like, and also because in the end, my time was very positive and I did love America, and I didn't see a life for me back in the UK right there and then. I was actually like, I kind of do want to stay, but my best position was like sixth at nationals, and yeah, we got the national title as a team in 2015 at cross country and things, but that's not going to get you a sponsor as per se, like. But we knew I was gonna be, I could be good. I just needed that support again, and someone to like, yeah, help me professionally. But then that's the next stage, isn't it? So yeah, I actually like took all my bags. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to go back to the UK just yet. I'm going to experience I'm going to, do a few more things in America. So I just entered some races off my own back. And I did some random like 10K races. I went and did this one 10K race, for example, in New York. And this agent actually approached me after the race. I didn't realize what I actually entered at the time, but it was one of these like big series races. And basically I was the only non-African on the line, and I was like, wow, okay, this is going to be a race, let's go. And I remember they were shot off like a rocket right from the get-go, and little me was just trying to keep with them. And all of a sudden, like, but I paced it to perfection, and in the end I actually finished third. And I was really happy with the result, and I had a great day. And then an agent approached me and was like, what's your plan now? Are you going back to the UK? I've seen you've done, like, you've done well in New Mexico, like. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I genuinely don't have a plan. And he was like, well, if you want a sponsor, I can sponsor your visa and you can stay in America. I can put you up in Virginia, and we do most of our training in DC. I can support you, and on the way, hopefully we can try and figure out a sponsorship for you. And yeah, we'll go from there. And he coached like Gotti Tom, who was the gold medalist at the World Marathon 2 years ago, and then silver medal the year after. And then also another top American who was top 10 in London at Worlds. So I was like, do you know what? Like, let's do this. Like, I've not really got any other opportunities right now. So I did actually do that for 1 year. And it was this Kenyan coach what coached me. It was a crazy experience. It was very much like army style training, because we would get up at 4 a.m. and we would commute to DC, and it would take an hour and a half to get there. We'd get there at 6 a.m. and he was very strict. He would be like shouting at us like, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. And I still have this like drain like in the back of my mind. But do you know what? Like, it was crazy, it was wild, but it served a purpose. And I had like some amazing teammates. It made me tough, that's for sure. And he was the one that was like, you're a marathon runner. And he was right. So I'll give him that. He was like, you're definitely a marathon runner. You're even now, like, you need to like give up the 5K, like train for the marathon, because you're going to be great at it. And yeah, crazy time. But then that's basically the gist of that story. And then I went back. I was there for like a year, and then I went back to the UK. And that's when I did the whole, right, Calli, come on, like, just do normal life for a bit, get a full-time job, try and get a house, like, which I did. I ticked a box. I did full-time work for about a year and a half, worked my butt off. I did 60-hour weeks, working in a residential school for kids who had gone from foster home to foster home their whole life. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. But of course, my running took a hit. It's so hard to do 60-hour weeks and try and be like a really good runner. So yeah, but ultimately I did tick that box. I bought a house. I was happy, but I was also like, now what? Is this it? Like, and then I had a light bulb moment, and that's where I come to the Australia story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before we move on to Australia, can we just go over a few of these kind of other moments? So firstly, with kind of that whole Kenyan training setup, I mean, that must have been quite a exciting time. You've just left college, you're kind of on your own, doing a bit of training, got this sort of agent situation. How did you find that training compared with what you've been doing in the NCAA?
Yeah, completely different. I mean, he had a very different style of training anyway. Like, he was strict, but at the same time, I think I felt like I needed that. I didn't mind that. Like, it wasn't like in a bad way by any means. It was just, that's just how he like, yeah, how he worked. And he would try and get the best out of you. But yeah, it was very much like type. He was very much like a type B personality though. So things would just, it'd be like, right, so on Wednesday you're going to pace Molly Huddle in the Houston half marathon, who's like trying to get the American record. And I'm like, maybe you should tell me that weeks and months in advance, because that's like a big task and things like that. And he would just throw things on me. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, and I am very much a type B person, but Jesus, like only to some extent. I think I'm not realizing that I'm more in the middle, but like, because that was a lot. But yeah, it was crazy. Like looking back, it's absolutely crazy time of my life, because yeah, he had the whole reins on my life basically. He was like my coach, my agent. He was doing everything, and I just kind of like did what he said at the time. But looking back, like I don't regret that decision. I learned a lot from it, and those girls I was training with were insane. Like they were great, and I actually raced against Gotti Tom in the Manchester 10K just recently, and it was so cool to like bring that back and be like, oh my God, Gotti Tom, like all that, like, all those years ago we trained together, and now she's like a world champion. And yeah, and I'm racing her in a 10K. And yeah, I don't know, I regret anything in my life. Yeah, it's not conventional. It is mental, some of the things I said yes to and did, but like I said, it all served a purpose.
Yeah, no, definitely. And, you say you learned a lot from that experience. Is there anything in particular that was maybe your biggest takeaway or the top few things?
I'm a yes person. I don't know. I wouldn't say like that's for everyone either. Like I 100% just don't have a hot head in a situation. Like, yeah, I'm not just saying like it's good to be a yes person. You do have to put a lot of thought into different things. But at the time, like I didn't really have anything else. And like I said, like I didn't see a life for me right then in the UK at that time. So this was an opportunity for me to still stay in America. And you get to learn more about each coach, and every coach is different, and some things work for you and others don't, and that's okay. Like so I learned a lot in that sense on what I need from a coach, I guess. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of that one.
Yeah, no, definitely. And for you, what is it that you need from a coach?
Yeah, I so I always thought like I'd always happened to have like a businessman as a coach, like very much like business orientated, like not really emotional, like it but I always thought like that's what I needed and wanted, because I was always like, do you know what, just give me the session and I'll do it. I don't need the emotional support. I've got my friends and my family for that. I'm very fortunate. I have a great circle around me. So as long as you just give me the session, I'll trust you on the session. I'll get it done, and I'll trust you on your judgment with races. So like, yeah, I've always had that kind of coach, and it's worked for me. But don't get me wrong, now I've got a coach who's my husband, who gives me all the emotional support as well, and who sees my day to day, and he makes sure that my emotional cup is full. God, does that make a difference? And I think before I felt like I didn't need it, but obviously you do need it. There's much more than just being a coach and setting a session, like there's so much more that goes beyond setting a weekly plan, or there's so much to an athlete. So I think that I learned a lot from that. I mean, I still continue to have several other coaches in the meantime who were all very different in their own way, but yeah, you do learn each time, and you learn what's right for you, just like anything. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. The more things you try, the more stuff you find out. So, no, that's great that you've kind of come to that realization, even if there were a few others in between. And
Yeah.
so then you were back in the UK, you're working these 60-hour weeks. How did you even, I know you said it wasn't particularly a great combo, but how did you manage to keep running during that time?
Yeah, it was hard. Like I was really struggling to fit like a bulky weekend and stuff, like trying to like do really early morning runs and run in the evening, or just do bulky weekends, or like it was just fitting it in when I could around my work. And that's hard. And then trying to race on top of that and just being mentally drained. Like I think that was it really. I was just mentally tapped out, and I was like, God, like this is hard, but I never gave up. I would never pack it in. I was just like, I am going to do this thing. It's just, right now, I need to work. I want to buy a house. Yeah. So I don't know. You just do it. You do it, don't you? You get a position put it at you, you make it work. And I made it work for a bit, for a while.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, when the occasion comes, I think people are often surprised at how they do kind of rise to it. And, certainly sounds like you did in that instance. And yeah, so then you were off to Australia. How did that all transpire?
Yeah, so that one was quite a funny story, really. It's just really random. It was actually my younger sister, who's 8 years younger than me. She was a bit of a princess at the time, like not really like done a whole lot. Like she's kind of like staying at home, and I mean she's young. She's still not, made that big life decision yet and what she wants to do after school. And I was like, Elle, you're a bit of a princess. Like I think you need to travel. Like you need to just like get a map, like pick somewhere, go to another country, like learn another culture, and that's the best thing I've ever done, and that's the best advice I can give you. So pick somewhere, just even if it's for a few weeks, just have a bit of a gap year. You're not 100% sure on what you want to do after school. That's okay. That's normal. But just go and travel and then figure it out like along the way. She was like, all right, yeah. So she picked Australia.
Why not?
And I was like, you know what? Like, I've always fancied Australia. It's a long way, but I support that decision. So I took her to a travel agent. And anyway, it turns out that you can fill in a 1 minute form, literally a little form, and bam, you get a 1 year working holiday visa. So I'm having this light bulb moment, and I'm like, hell, like this is really cool. Like I can get a work holiday visa. Like I might just do this as well. Like why not? Like just go and work in Australia. Like try and make my, because you can take running anywhere. That's the luxury of running. Like you can go anywhere in the world and try and make you running, like you can make it happen. Like you just need a track, a gym, some trails, like that's all you need. But then I got talking to people, and everyone was like, if you go to Australia, you have to be coached by Nick Bideau. Like he's the coach of all coaches. Look at his track record. He's got so many Olympians. And I'm like, God, yeah, like, and I obviously looked, like I watched Jen LaCase on the TV, and like all of these people. I'm thinking, wow, like, and obviously I knew Charlotte Purdue was coached by him. And I was like, So I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to reach out on Facebook, give him a quick message. He can only say no or not message me back. So I messaged him, sent my whole bio, said why he should coach me, and I've got what it takes, and I'm hardworking. Like you set me a session, I'll do it. Like this and that. And anyway, he messaged me back, and he just put, "Are you related to Hauger-Thackery?" And I was like, "Thank you, Dad." And I was like, yeah, that's my dad. And he was like, because I guess his wife, Sonia O'Sullivan, was an amazing runner. And yeah, she was in the same era as my dad. So he knew of my dad. And he was like, wow, okay. He was like, well, let me know when you're in Australia. And yeah, you can come join our group kind of thing. And like, let's see how it goes. So I'm like, okay, like if I can get in with the Melbourne Track Club, surely I can't go far wrong in that kind of environment. And I just thought I needed that, like something similar to what I had in America, because everything was going so well out there with a good team environment. And that's just what I felt I needed and wanted. And then I would just, yeah, work around that and figure it out along the way. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of how I went to Australia. And it was really random and it paid off. But at the same time, COVID happened while I was out there. So I was actually only going to go out there for 5 months. That was the plan. And I ended up staying there for 3 years.
Wow. Gosh,
Yeah.
yeah. Wow, no, yeah, that's yeah, definitely, from one side of the world right across the other side of the world. Was there anything in particular that was like the biggest culture shock moving there?
I wouldn't say culture shock as such, just because I'd been to so many places at this point, experienced so many things, and I'd done the whole American experience, and I was like, it's not a whole lot different. Like they had the group, they were meeting several times a week, like there's a lot of coffee, like afterwards. It was great. I was loving it. It was more the COVID situation. What was the shock? The Melbourne had the strictest lockdown in the world. It was very, very strict. Like you had to keep within a 5K radius, and there were police in it. They were literally, it was crazy. Like you just felt like you were in this little bubble, and you just had. And the thing is, they call it down under anyway. They say, and I can see why. And obviously, it felt more down under than ever during COVID. Like wow, I felt isolated for a while. Like, and I think like just being away from home for that long, I was like, wow, this is getting tough. Like but I was very fortunate to build great friendships out there. The team were brilliant. They were so supportive. Um, I luckily and they turned into family. So I felt supported, but at the same time, it was tough. Like I did miss home. I missed my home comforts after a while, and yeah. And then luckily, like finally, the final year, we were allowed to race again. We got the go ahead. We were allowed to travel a bit more, and things, started. We got a bit more normality back again. but I wasn't able to race out there for 2 years because of COVID. So yeah, as an athlete, that's hard, like you like just train it. All I did was train because that's all I could do. Like I was just training like a crazy person. And I think that's how, for me, like it works, like fortunately. And I had my breakthrough. And that's actually when I ran the world standard. I did the Olympic trial out there. So it was their Australian Olympic trials, but they allow internationals in their Olympic trials, which is crazy to me, but it's great for me as well. So yeah, I was allowed to be in that race and I finished third in the Olympic trials. So technically that if I was Australian, I would have been going to worlds. Sorry, I said Olympic trials, I meant world trials. So yeah, it was the world trials. I got the world standard, 15:09. It was 15:10 at the time, and I just got it. And I was like, oh, I just got the world standard. And all I was aiming for, my biggest aim that year was get the Com Game standard, try and make the Com Games. That'll be epic. Like I was just like, yep, that'll be great. And then when I saw I got the world standard and got this huge PB, I was like, wow, that's a breakthrough. I'm so happy with that. Things are clicking finally after this crazy journey. Like things are actually clicking for me now.
Gosh, no, that's incredible. Gosh, yeah, no, I mean, being hit by COVID, that definitely does not sound ideal. I can imagine how kind of isolating that was. So it's, it's really great to hear that you did have that team set up around you, but also at the same time, it sounds like you really had some incredible progress as a result of your time out there. Do you think there's anything in particular, maybe training wise, or anything that you changed that led you to maybe have that slight breakthrough?
You know what it was? It was actually I was training for the marathon. That was going to be my debut. I was about to have my debut marathon, but I got injured just before my first bone stress. And only bone stress touch wood. I need wood. So yeah, and so I was like, oh my God, I didn't know how to deal with it at the time. I was like, I didn't even know what a bone stress felt like. I was just like getting this achiness in my hip. And yeah, well, it actually turned out to be like my femur. What was it's weird how it all like, yeah, I've never had one, so I didn't know what to. And I was saying to my teammate at the time, I was like telling her what was going on with my hip and my leg, and she was like, "That doesn't sound great, Calli. You should go and get an MRI. Like it kind of sounds like all the signs of a bone stress." And I was like, "Really?" It's like, "No, like I think it's just tendon or something, just tightness from marathon training." But yeah, I just because there was no races, and the only races what were really going in Melbourne at the time were like marathons and stuff. Like finally, like when the races were starting again. So I'm like, oh, the Melbourne Marathon. Like apparently it's amazing. It's fast. It was 20,000 for the win. I'm thinking, wow, like I'm like, obviously like struggling at that point. It's COVID, and I'm like, wow, okay. And I was getting really fit. And there was one of the guys I was training with, and he was like, I can pace you if you want. So I'm like, this is all lined up great. Like, why not? And I know obviously all deep down people had told me for so long. I think it was subconsciously on my mind that I'm going to be this marathon runner. So I'm like, maybe this is the time to just try it. So anyway, like got the bone stress 3 weeks before the marathon. And I was like, damn, okay, like this marathon's not happening then. So I did go and get the MRI, and they were like apparently lit up like a Christmas tree. And they were like, yeah, you're like, there's no way you can do this marathon. Like, it's not the Olympics. Like, just don't do it. Like, you'll make it even worse, and you'll be out for much longer. So I was actually mortified at the time. Like, I was just like, oh my God, this is my first like real knock back from, like it's not nice to hear like, all that work, and then you feel like all that work's just gone then, and you're like, oh wow, okay. And yeah, I mean, but at the same time, like I was like, I'll do what I can. I'll do all these things in the gym. I started this, like, yeah, I started getting just strong again. And I think I'd like, yeah, like slacked in the gym and stuff, and not done all these things for a long time. And I was like, it made me realize that it's like, no, I need to be doing all these things. And I also took another kind of approach and was like, I'm going to do some bucket list things now. Like, I'm injured, can't run anyway. I'm going to do some things what I've wanted to do. So I went skydiving. I went and did this crazy bungee jump in Early Beach, in like Cairns area. And then, yeah, I went to Early Beach, Cairns. I slept on the Great Barrier Reef and like on this pontoon in the middle of the ocean, did scuba diving. jet ski tours. I'm like, do you know what? I'm gonna live the life for a bit. I feel like as athletes, we just don't do a lot of things. Like we just live in this little bubble, and there's a whole world out there to be lived. Like we've got to do these things, you know. So, and do you know what? I did all these things, and I came back. And I gained this new love and perspective for running again. I was like, wow, like that was cool. But now it's like, I just want to run just to run. And I'm not going to put any goals inside. I'm just going to run just because I genuinely love running, like just putting one foot in front of the other, being able to go outdoors, see my friends, and just keep it simple. Like, not just put these big, scary goals in front of me and just see what happens and what comes of it. And it was weird. Like, I started running, I got the go ahead from the physio, came back with all my life stories, my crazy stories, but he was like, okay. And then he was like, right, this is the plan now. So I kept doing the gym stuff, kept really like on it with that. And then I got back in, and before you know it, I'm like doing sessions I've not been able to do before. I'm like hitting, splits I've not seen, even when I was like before, like this whole injury. And I'm like, wow, like, and then before you know it, I'm like, and because of my mindset as well, the mindset shift, I went into my first race out there. It was 5,000. This was before the Olympic trial, world trial, sorry, what I decided to do. And I just went and entered this 5,000 meter race. We finally could race again. So I'm like, okay, let's just do this 5,000 meter race and let's just enjoy racing again. I knocked 12 seconds off my time. So my time before that was from college. I was just like not seeing any PBs for a long time. And yeah, not 12 seconds off. I ran 15:26. And I was like, oh my God, not expecting that. I'd only been back a month or so, and I'm not really tapered for it or anything. I just kind of, yeah. And that's when I started finding momentum again. Started picking up momentum, and then my coach, Nick Bordeaux at the time, he was like, right, you should do the Olympic trial. Just go for it. Go and try and run a fast time. Like, it's probably going to be a fast race. Sorry, I keep saying Olympic trial. I mean world trial. I'm thinking about the Olympics too much.
Not a bad thing.
So he and he was like, yeah, go and do the world trial. So I did it. And that's when I ran another big PB and ran 15:09, which was the world standard at the time. And then he was like, right, he was like, messaged me and was like, do you want to do a Diamond League in London? And I was like, of course. Like, that's when things started picking up for me. I started and was like, right, I'm going to finally go back to the UK after 3 years. I'm going to try and make the Commonwealth Games, try and make the Europeans, and even potentially the Worlds. Like, who knows? So yeah, I just went all in, and yeah, went back to the UK, and that's when my next journey started.
Wow, gosh. So definitely not an adrenaline junkie then. We'll toss that one off.
I feel like deep down we all have that in us a little bit. Like, I feel like we've all got a bucket list. That was just some of mine.
No. It's a good thing. It's a good thing to live life, and happy athletes are successful athletes, and that definitely showed for you. And I'm sure that some people listening are probably feeling really inspired, of course, by your comeback from that injury, but also wondering, were you doing cross training? Were you still keeping up with that side of things, or what was the situation like?
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing, even though I was doing all these crazy things, and I'm so glad I did. It was amazing. And Australia, there's so much to see out there. So I'm glad I did that. But at the same time, I was still taking my running journey very seriously. And I did want to get back. And that's all what was like in the back of my mind, deep down. So yeah, I was still doing a lot of like gym work, and anywhere. I mean, there's gyms everywhere, and no matter where you go in the country or like around, there's going to be a gym somewhere. So I was definitely like doing a lot of cross training, keeping on top of the S&C. I was doing it like several times a week. And I think that's why I when I did come back after the injury, I was a different kind of strong, because like I'd added all these things in what I'd kind of, like unfortunately put on the back burner for so long. And I was just so focused on miles and marathon training that the strength and conditioning training, like, yeah, like I don't know what, like I just scrapped it. I just didn't do it. But I realized the importance of it. And if I want to stay healthy and not get this bone stress, like, try and not get another bone stress, then these are the things I've got to be working on. I've got to be working on the weaknesses. So yeah, I was definitely still training and taking it very seriously and thinking about when that next race will be, even though I was still, just had a bit of a break from the actual running while I was injured. But I think that's that's good to do. And I would say that to anyone, like while you're injured, just go and embrace normal life for a bit. It's so sometimes running can just, it's crazy. It gets, you forget that there's a whole life out there as well. And that's like anything in life. When we set our mind to something, we're so laser focused. And it's just so good to like remember that there is another life out there as well. And yeah. So yeah, I don't regret doing what I did. I think it was just my way of handling it, and everyone handles situations differently, but that is, yeah, how I handled it at the time.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think it's a great way to go. It shows, a strong mindset, resilience, kind of determination, and making the most of, if you want to call it the opportunity of being injured. Of course, it's not a positive thing, but no, that is really great that you managed to do those things. And yeah, like you say, the next chapter, you're back in the UK. And I guess first things first, you raced in the Birmingham Diamond League. But that was a DMF for you?
Birmingham, Emily, you're right. Sorry, I said London earlier, but yeah, it was. Yeah, so oh God, that was actually a crazy story as well because what it was, I was still trying. So I was picking up momentum, I was racing again, and just before I took that long haul flight back to the UK, I actually did two more races, and they were on the roads. So I did one more. It was called the Great Ocean Road Race, and it was, I believe, it was a 12K, so not a 10K, but it was like a 12K, but it was well known, and it's on this beautiful Great Ocean Road, and it's incredible. And I've done it before. I'd done it before, and I was like, I want to go back and do it. Great prize money, of course. COVID, I wasn't sponsored, so I'm like, this is my income right now. Like, I need to do these races. So I went and did it. I won the race, and then I think it was, yeah, that was on the Saturday. Then on the Sunday, thought it was another good opportunity. There was a half marathon in Sydney, so I got a flight that day after the race, and I went and ran a half marathon. And again, like, it sounds crazy, but at the same time, this was my income. Like, COVID was tough, and race, prize money earnings was how I was living. Yeah, I was doing other jobs as well, of course, but I, was relying on prize money at the time more than ever. So I went to Sydney, and it was like $5,000. And at the time I was like, this is a lot of money. I want to try and win this race, and I'm fit right now. So I'm just gonna, and in my mind I'm thinking, I'll use it as a training run. It's fine. I'll just tempo it, and then it'll be a great training effort. So I'm like, I can do a 12K and then do a half marathon the day after, no worries. So anyway, I go and do this half marathon, and I win the race again, and I was like, brilliant. Like, that's a great weekend's work. So I had 6 days from this point until the Diamond League. And then anyway, I get on that flight that night, and my feet swell up like crazy to the point they like tripled in size. And I am not even joking. Like, it was horrendous. I've never seen anything like it. And it was probably the aftermath of trying to do these two hard races and get on a long haul flight. And my poor body was like, what are you doing? So like they tripled in size, and I was looking at my feet going, oh my God, I look like a baby elephant. Like, it was so bad. I was telling the air hostess, I was literally like, is this normal? Like, have you seen this before? Like, my feet are literally swelling. And she was like, oh. She was like, and like luckily they had this like prayer room, and luckily no one was using it at the time. She was like, go in there, like go and elevate your legs. Like, you just need to get some blood flow. So I'm there like, oh, okay. So I'm like having putting my legs up, trying to do everything, trying to keep drinking. Like, I couldn't even walk. Like, I couldn't walk. So I like finally, when we landed, still awful, and I was thinking, oh no. And it looks like, honestly, I got back to my family after 3 years. They see me, and then I just showed them my feet, and they're like, Calli, this is bad. Like, this, it looks like deep bone thrombosis or something, or whatever you call it. So and they were like, you need to go to the hospital, like, this is awful. And they were like discolored, and it wasn't great. So I went to the hospital, and I just needed, so basically I had this horrible blood blister as well, and it was like really bad. And sorry to give too much gruesome detail here, but yeah. And basically they had to like try and seep the blood out of my nail, and like finally the swelling went down a little bit, and it was horrible. They were just putting needles in my toenail and like trying to like drain blood. But obviously they were like, this is a soft tissue injury, like this is not good. Like, they were like, you cannot run for a while, like you need to just like take some time off. And obviously me being me, I'm just like, oh, they're not a sports physio, they don't know. Like I'm just like, oh, I'll be fine. And I mean, I did have to take 2 days off. I mean, they were swelled for like 48 hours easily. So, and then I just did some pool running because I was fit. I was like, you know what? I'm fit. I'm fine. If I can just like maintain this fitness, I can still race. So, I mean, I told my coach at the time, Nick Badeau, I told him what happened, and he was like, oh, just do some pool running. It'll be okay. Like, you'll still be able to race. Like, you should be fine. Just, yeah. So anyway, I did what the doctor told me, and well, I guess I didn't because I ran, but like I did all the things he said. But it was like, yeah, just so anyway, I did the pool running and I went to race. Turns out I was not ready to race because of this. Like it was bad. Like, I mean, yeah. I mean, taking 2 days off and then pool running, not ideal. And then trying to do a really fast 5K with all of that going on that same week. And then also like doing the races I did. I just wasn't a smart decision by me. And, you live and you learn. And sometimes we have to do these things. And at the time, that's what I felt I had to do. Like, you have to make ends meet. And that's what I had to do at the time. And yeah, obviously I'm a different athlete now and I make very sensible decisions. I've come a long way since then.
Gosh, yeah. Oh, that that does not sound pleasant in any way, shape, and form. And I think a DNF is, very much deserved, if you wouldn't call it in that instance.
Oh, yeah.
But no, I mean it didn't, the season did not stop there for you. I mean, you went on to have a, stellar season running some, crazy fast times across a range of distances, including a 14:58 at Barrowford. And also what's interesting is you were racing a lot. I mean, you were churning out these high quality races kind of week in, week out for that 2022 season. Can you kind of talk us through that experience and that kind of progression?
Yeah, I love racing. And I feel like with the
Really?
5K, I feel like with the 5K, like you can get away with it. It's not like the marathon. Obviously, they say to do two or three per year. I mean, I'm going to challenge that one day, but no, I'm kidding. I'm going to make sensible decisions. But like, yeah, with the 5K, it's a luxury one where your body recovers after it. Like, I mean, for me anyway, like I would do a 5K on the Saturday, and then yeah, I'd want to do a 3K on the like I'd do a 3K on a Tuesday, and I'd be fine, and I'd PB in both. And then yeah, I just kept seeing these races kept coming up, and I was like, why not? Like, I've caught momentum here. Like, why not just make the most of this? So I did, and I felt like it was all good prep, ready for the Com Games and Europeans, and just wanted to like, yeah, and because you had not raced in so long, like previous to that, like I'd not raced in 2 years. So yeah, when there was an opportunity, I took them. Um, yeah, so obviously it's different now with the roads. Like you have to be more careful and you have to be more dialed in and when you race and stuff. But yeah, with the 5K, I felt like it was good for me to race often, and you gain a lot of experience from, each different race.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, I guess that season saw you concentrate a lot on kind of the 5,000s again, back on the track. But you clocked a couple of half marathons towards the end of 2022, finished on a 69.2, but you then kind of started taking that forwards a bit more the following year. You ran that amazing 2:22 marathon, your debut marathon, not even a particularly well-known a marathon either. So what kind of led you to move back more towards the longer distances there?
Yeah, I think deep down, like I'd known for a while that the roads were going to be my calling. It was just a matter of when. And I always thought like once I switched the roads, that would be it. I'd lose my speed. I start do a day like I do my marathon. That's it. I lose my speed because you hear about all these stories, and I think that's what scared me about like not go like. But it's not true. It's false. Like you actually like get like the marathon training and racing for the marathon gets you so fit and across the board. Like for me personally, like yeah, like I can still run good 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, and it's all great. And I feel like I wish I'd have known that like from the beginning, because you hear all these stories like, oh, once you start marathon training, you're just tired all the time, you lose your speed, like, you know. But yeah, so I thought, and then the 5Ks that year last year didn't go the way I wanted. I didn't see PBs and I wasn't making teams. So I was like, maybe this is, like maybe I need a mental break from the track. maybe I'll just, and with the roads, it's so different. It's so different. And I find you still get, you feel the pressure, but it's a different kind of pressure. And I can just get in such a rhythm on the roads. And yeah, I started seeing PBs in the half. And then I was like, okay. And then I made the world team in the half, and that went really well. And the thing is, before my debut, that's what the training was all for. It was for the world half. Like, I was just like, right, well, that's the main race this year. We're going to make that world team. I'm going to see what happens there amongst the best in the world. And then, yeah, afterwards, why not do a marathon within that? Like, just, but it was all about getting my feet wet in the distance. That's all it was about. Like, it was like my debut. Everyone was like, oh, your debut, it's just about learning. You just have to, your debut is not, it's not going to be like the main one. You learn a lot from it. You got to fuel right. There's so many things you got to think about. You just got to do what you can. But I think deep down, I was like, I don't want to just get my feet wet. Like, I want to do something great. And I feel like the confidence I had at that point with my running and the mental space I was in, I was like, no, like, I want to do something great. Like, I want to make that Olympic team. Like, yeah, obviously, like, I thought my dreams were crazy and like me thinking that, but at the same time, like, I thought it could be possible if I get it all right on the day. And why not? Why can't I do it on my debut?
I mean,
So
you definitely did. It was quite a debut, and getting that qualifying time a year ahead of the Olympics is not something that everyone kind of has. So, how's training changed since that? I mean, I guess you've been able to solely focus on that. And have you got maybe some key sessions which are maybe, I don't know, staples for you?
yeah, I think that's the thing. It has changed a lot, yeah, since that debut. I thought I was doing marathon training then, and it turns out I really wasn't. But it worked for me at the time, and it got me to that point. But like, luckily, I was so fit because of the half marathon, like the training I was doing to succeed and do well in the half. Luckily, that translated, and it still got me to a good debut. But at the same time, training has changed a lot since then. My biggest week was like I think 105 at the time, and I thought that was massive. I was like, wow, like yeah, I'm doing full marathon training here. I'm doing a lot, like God. And I was like, I'll never go past that. Like that's because I just thought because I do a lot of quality, I was like, I don't need to. I'm not one of those athletes what need to do like really, really big mileage weeks all the time. And I'm just very much more quality based than quantity. Um, but it turns out you can try and do both. And for me, like I found a middle ground. Like I'm not doing, I mean, I'm doing 120-mile weeks now. And like that's my average for the last God knows how many weeks. But I found that that's my sweet spot. So yeah, I still get a lot of quality in with that. And I don't feel like it's forced though. I don't force mileage. It just happens that when I've done a few of my big, like I do some double workouts, and then I also do like big long runs, and then another like a marathon specific workout at the end, like on the Friday or something. And then then you go to like calculate your mileage at the end of the week, and you're like, oh wow, actually, it's another 120-mile week. But I never force that. I just let the miles come to me. And but yeah, it's been very, very different since then. And obviously, like when I found out I was definitely on the team for the Olympics for the marathon, I mean, I'm so glad I went to go and see that course because yeah, you have to like do the specific work for that course because there's some steep hills, like 13% gradient on one of the hills. That's no joke. So it has been a lot of specific stuff around that. I'm trying to like callus the legs to be able to put up with not just the steep ups but the downs as well. Yeah.
Gosh. So not the 220-mile week as per Runner's World.
No, I can't believe that. Like, I know I've had so many messages about the Runner's World magazine, been like, Calli, do you do 220 miles a week? And I'm like, no, that is a typo. It's meant to say 120 miles a week. I'm not an ultra marathoner yet.
Oh well, cleared up for the future then, guys. She's not a 220 miler.
No.
But yeah, I guess, if we touch on the course for Paris, it definitely does sound a bit like a kind of cross-country Met marathon and that's its baby kind of situation.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm glad I saw it. It's one of those you have to go and see. Like you can see it on a map or like online on the GPS, but when we actually saw the hills and the terrain on the course, like just seeing it, like it's mental. So it's been really like positive to see it and then work work with what we've got basically. But it's exciting as well, and I think it's going to make it a big equalizer race. I think there'll be a lot of us together for a long time, because you just can't go crazy fast on that course for a while, like or else good luck if you do, like, because that's 26.2 miles of just this, like, I mean, yeah, but we'll
Yeah.
see.
No, definitely. I mean, it sounds like you've got everything kind of in place for a great run there. So we'll be wishing you the best with that. And yeah, you mentioned earlier, of course, kind of periods and the impact of that on training, and that you've kind of taken away some learnings, maybe dietary with supplements and stuff like that. What are your kind of most recent takeaways or things that you've been able to change that for the better?
Yeah, I think just, yeah, with all of the women's health stuff, I found that for me, like, there's definitely supplements you can take, just making sure your iron is in a good spot. So I have a lot more red meats than normal, like when I know I'm about to come on my period, things like that, and just making sure I'm keeping my hormones in a good spot, and doing all the things. So basically, yeah, there's a few. There's omega-3, like, is a big one. There's B3 vitamin I take as well. I think it's B3. Oh God, hope I got that right. But yeah,
Be
there's a few.
something.
Yeah, there's a few, and I feel like all these little things, like, even psychologically, like, it's just making a difference. And then on top of that, yeah, just balancing everything well, like with, good sleep, like physio, like just making sure my body's in a good spot to take on the demands each day, and being flexible, like if I don't sleep so well and I've got this big marathon workout the next day, I'll change it to another day. Like, that's okay. You've got to be so careful and make all the right decisions at this point. So there's been a lot of, like, work what's gone into it, a lot of thinking, a lot of, just making sure we're doing absolutely everything we possibly can to make sure that there's no stone left unturned.
Awesome. And so when you say they're kind of, making sure you're not leaving any stones unturned, what are some of the things that maybe past Calli might not have thought about that now you do consider in your training?
Yeah, I just think a good, like, work-life balance, just like mentally being in a good spot, like making sure, and that's why, like, the husband coach relationship right now is working so well. He just understands me, and we work collaboratively, like we work really well together, and he understands that I know a lot about myself, and but he also, but I also trust him, and he sees me day to day. So, like, he makes sure, like, my emotional cup is full, and there's a lot that goes into it. And I think, yeah, just making sure that we can, like, you make sure that I've got the autonomy. And I think that's the main thing with it. You got to feel like you make sure that it's a two-way street. It's a good coach-athlete relationship. And that's so important to me. And I think that's what it's come down to. Just having this, like, support system in place where I do feel, yeah, like everyone's on my side, and I'm mentally in a great spot and I'm physically in a great spot, and I trust my training wholeheartedly.
Yeah. No, definitely that's a great place to be in. And yeah, it is so important to have the two-way conversation. And yeah, you mentioned earlier at the start how you're feeling really, really strong right now. Training's going really well. Is there anything that, if you reflect back on everything, that perhaps is been the most important or most pivotal thing for you in getting to that point? Okay, unfortunately, we had a few Wi-Fi issues, so Calli answered this question after we finished recording the podcast. So the quality is maybe a little bit down, and there's no follow-up on this response. But yeah, enjoy the next bit, and we'll finish the rest of the interview afterwards.
Yeah, for me, the pivotal moment was when I hit rock bottom. Around this time last year, I was trying to make the world team for the 5K. And unfortunately, yeah, I DNF'd, and I was absolutely distraught, heartbroken off the track. I mean, Nick had to, like, try and pick up the pieces. I was self-coached at the time. Unfortunately, like, yeah, it didn't work out with my previous coach, and he just didn't have the belief in me. And it was, yeah, I just felt lost for a bit. So me and Nick, we took ourselves away just for a few days. I was actually supposed to race in Belgium, but instead of racing, I ate some Belgian waffles and drank some beer, and just took a 4-day reprieve from running for a bit, and just dealt with it the best way I know how. And yeah, sometimes you just have to, like, figure out your mental health first. And then when I came back from that trip, I was, like, refreshed and ready to figure it out and what I was going to do next in terms of a coaching situation. And I lost a lot of trust, so I just wanted to, like,
have like find someone who fully believed in me. And yeah, so I spoke to Tom Craggs, who works for England Athletics, and we had a long phone call, and he really wanted to help me, but his position in England Athletics was obviously at the forefront, so he couldn't help me the way he wanted. But he did say to me, like, Calli, you should get coached by Nick, like your husband. He's amazing at what he does himself. He gets it, and he actually coaches on quite a few online clients anyway, so he gets the whole coaching role. And yeah, it'll be different this time. I mean, this is an elite athlete, and it's very full on, but he was more than willing to do it. And ever since he stepped up, and even a month after Nick started coaching me, I started believing again, and training was going well, and that's when I entered a race, and I did the big half, won the big half, and just a few weeks after that I got the Nike sponsorship. I got 7th at the world half, and then my marathon debut, and everything went well ever since. So I would definitely say, ever since Nick started coaching me, I would say that's been a pivotal moment and the key force for me in terms of how it all just went from strength to strength ever since, basically, and we've got this amazing thing now. So yeah, I feel very, very fortunate.
No, definitely. Yeah. Great stuff there, and stuff that definitely our listeners can take on board. We've got a couple of questions from listeners here. We've got one about how do you ensure you fuel adequately?
How do I make sure I fuel adequately? Yeah, God, there's a lot to fuel in, especially in the marathon. I'm always taking gels with me on runs now, even just like my normal hourly runs, or just I'm always on it with it, because you've got to like train your stomach to cope with the carb intake as well, because on the marathon you will be needing the fuel. Like, you need to keep hydrated, you need the carbs, or else yeah, you're gonna bonk at the end. So I feel like that's the main thing for me, and luckily, like, I do take carbs really well, and I've had lab results, and they've come, yeah, and they've said that I do burn carbs really quickly. So take them, like, I need to be taking them. So I have really like trained my stomach to do that. And so immediately after my big sessions, I'll go and have like a chocolate milk, and I'll go and have like a good meal. Like, sometimes, yeah, it's very hard, because like after a big session you do feel a bit vulnerable, like your stomach's not in a great spot, but you just have to force it sometimes. That's part of the training as well, like making sure you are like not in a calorie deficit, and making sure you're very well fueled before the run, after the run, and ready to take on that next like run, either a few hours from now or the day after. Like, you just need to be on it all the time. And I think that is, we all think we're eating enough, I think, a lot of the time, but we're actually not, for how much we're burning, especially for marathon training. God, you need to be training that stomach as much as you can, and just being well fueled throughout the whole thing, or else, yeah, those training sessions can easily go they can go south because of that. So that's my main input for fueling.
Yeah, no, I can imagine it. It must require quite a lot to sustain that kind of volume of training for sure. And we've got another one around of all the races you've done so far. Which one's been your favorite?
Um, Marathon debut. I have to say, the marathon debut was amazing. It was like all the stars aligned, and it's just the most incredible feeling when that happens, especially when your trajectory has just been crazy and so many ups and downs. But when it actually, like, yeah, goes the way it did on your debut, I just think that was just magical. And I had my husband pacing me as well, and it was just a magical day, and everything worked well the way I wanted it to. The fueling, the pacing, I trusted the process of 26.2 miles, and I was able to do my last 5K was the fastest split. So yeah, I just raced it to perfection, and yeah, and I made an Olympic team out of it. So yeah, it has to be the marathon.
Yeah, no, that really was an incredible performance. And yeah, you are definitely cut out for the marathon. And then we've also got one around your weekly training schedule, but I know we're tight on time, so feel free to give a kind of condensed version.
Yeah. So my typical weekly schedule at the moment would be like a Monday easy run, Tuesday session like on the track, normally around 10K in volume. And with the course being what it is in Paris, I might mix some hills in there as well. Um, Either whether that's straight after or in the evening. So I might do a double workout that day. And then Wednesday easy run. And I'll probably do my strength training on the Wednesday because I'm normally always too tired on the Tuesday. My aim is to do it on the Tuesday and make my hard days hard. But sometimes when you're just too tired, you do it on the Wednesday, the day after, and that's okay. So yeah, I do that. And then normally double day as well. And then Thursday, same again, normally double day, easy runs. And then Friday, I'll do a big marathon session. And that can be anything from like, 2x5 miles with some hills. So in the end, I think, last week or whenever it was, I did 2x5 miles with some hills and it ended up being 21 miles that morning. So it ended up being big with the warm up, the warm down, and the float miles to the hill, and then the hill session. So yeah, very specific marathon prep for Paris. And then Saturday, easy day. And then, that could be like one run. If I'm too tired on the Saturday, it'd just be like one run, gym. And then Sunday, I would do like a big long run. Yeah. So I normally do like anywhere from 20 to 23 miles. And I'll just go up, up on the mountain, basically. Like I'll just it's 4 miles uphill, but it's great prep for the marathon in Paris because that's what it is. There's a hill in there at the 15K mark, and it's just 4 miles uphill. So it's good training, good practice, and callousing the legs, and just trying to like practice running while tired and things like that. But it's been going well, and I've been recovering well each day, and I'm in a good rhythm. That's typically my week at the moment.
Nice. No, that sounds really comprehensive for sure. And will be exciting to see how you go in Paris. And finally, to close off with a couple of quick fire questions. So, reading or watching?
Watching.
Anything in particular?
Oh, I like crime shows at the moment. I don't know why I'm so addicted to crime shows. Like, there's some good ones on Netflix, and I'm like, me and my husband are really into them at the moment.
Nice. Okay, sweet or sour?
Sweet.
Anything in particular that you're loving at the moment?
Chocolate, ice cream. We love Mercy chocolates. We're just obsessed with them at the moment. Oh my God, yeah. Getting me through my marathon training, honestly, that's my guilty pleasure in the evening. And that's okay because I do a lot of miles. So yes, a lot of Mercy chocolate is being had on this camp.
I mean, it's the small things in life, It's the small things.
Yeah, everything in moderation,
Exactly. Hot or cold?
Hot.
Anywhere in particular you'd choose?
Oh, is this a holiday? I was thinking food.
Oh, you know what? Let's go with food. Hot or cold? Favorite food?
I don't. No, I don't know. I don't know why I thought food. No, I'm loving the holiday because I'm actually about to book my holiday for after Paris. So I'm thinking like hot Greek islands, like that. Yeah, just a nice island somewhere with a nice beach, private pool.
Oh yeah, that sounds like the one that will be very much deserved, I think, for you.
Thank you.
Stay in or go out?
Staying in.
Staying in. Any particular staying in favorite activity?
Movie night, like love a good movie, early night, but just put on a good show or a movie. Love it.
Yeah. Cannot go wrong with that.
And a hot bath. I love my baths. I'm obsessed with a bubble bath, and it's also good heat prep. So Paris could be hot. So definitely love my baths, and they're needed at the moment.
Yeah, sounds like it for sure. Crop top or vest?
Crop top, yeah.
Okay, nice. Spikes or flats?
I know. I nearly said spikes, and I was like, no, I can't say that now. I'm flats.
Got a favorite shoe at the moment?
My Vaporflies, love them. I can't wait to see the Olympic ones. I've not got them yet, but apparently they're funky.
Nice. Oh, well, we'll look forward to seeing them. Tea or coffee?
Coffee. Rely on coffee in the morning. Yeah.
Fair enough. Cats or dogs?
Well, I love all animals. It's a really tough one actually because I just love all animals. But if I had to choose dogs, yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm more dogs than cats. I'm with you there. Okay, and finally, bets on the Olympics. Who would be your top 3 women in the 5,000 meters?
Yeah, I mean, is this who I think is definitely going to win? Like top 3?
Yeah, I think so.
No, I think at the moment, I think it's looking like is Faith Kipyego Dublin? I think she is, isn't she?
Yeah, I think so. Let's say she is.
She is definitely her, and then she's just on one at the minute, and then Sagai, is it? The last name, I think it's Sagai. She'll probably be up there, previous world champion. And who else? Safan, I don't know how she's gonna do. But she's going all in. I feel like she thinks she can do 4 events, so I trust that she can do something crazy. Or else, why would you do 4 events? But I think they're my 3. But who knows?
No, it sounds like a good pick to me. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But no, thank you so much, Calli, for coming on. It's been great talking to you, hearing about your story, and yeah, really excited for you in Paris, and wish you the absolute best with that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's it for today. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, be sure to rate, subscribe, and leave a review. This really helps to get the content out there. And I want to make this podcast the best possible for you. So go follow Fitter, Faster, Happier on Instagram. That's Fitter, Faster, Happier to leave your questions, comments, and feedback, and for updates and guest requests. All the best for the week ahead, guys. Run happy, live happy, be happy.